Say you need a hero, someone to set you free. You say you need a hero, but don't put your faith in me. Don't put your faith in me. No. We all get lost sometimes, we all fall sometimes. The darkness in our hearts makes us shine like little stars. We are heroes. We are heroes. Heroes. We are heroes. We are heroes. See you walking through dark lands, searching for a strong hand. Take the reins and don't let go, but don't put your faith in me. 'Cause I'm no hero, at least not tonight. 'Cause we all get scared sometimes, we all fall sometimes. The darkness in our hearts makes us shine like little stars. We all get lost sometimes, we all fall sometimes. The darkness in our hearts makes us shine like little stars. We are heroes. We are heroes. Heroes. We are heroes. We are heroes. Heroes. We are heroes. Heroes. Say you hate the darkness, 'cause it's a lonely place. We all need the darkness, 'cause that's what makes us heroes. What makes us heroes every day. We are heroes. Heroes. We are heroes. I live 17 floors up, and when it rains, I can feel those drops in my window pane. Lets me know that I'm still here. But when the sun comes out, I will go outside. When it breaks through clouds, I will give a smile. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run
Hello?
away, run away.
Hey Edson, I'm trying to do all this via computer, but it's not letting me right now. Let me try my other PC real quick here.
Find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times. Find my friends again.
So just bear with me here.
Good times, I said good times. Find my friends again. I said I wanna have good
Come on.
times, good times.
This is not what I need right now. Oh, yes! Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to do audio using my PC here. What? Yeah, let me connect it.
Looks up, and when I cry, I can see this city through my watered eyes. Lets me know that I'm still here. When my eyes clear up, I will go outside. I'll imagine you're still by my side. Lets me know that I'm still here. Sometimes I want to run away, run
that's one.
Run away to the nearest place where I'll find all my old friends. Times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again. And good times I said good times, find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times, find my friends again. And find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times. Find my friends again, and good times. I said good times. Find my friends again. I said I wanna have good times, good times. Find my friends again, and. I wake up early, I sleep alone. I try to find love from a stranger on my phone. My vision blurry, so I forget. Dying to hold you, but you left me here for dead. How could I do what I've done if I'm in love? You know I did what I did, you loaded the gun. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Yeah, didn't mean to do it every day. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. I do it anyway. Don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Messing with monsters up in my head. Lie to myself lying beside her in my bed. Paint over pictures you left behind. I'd punch the walls if it would make you change your mind. How could I do what I've done if I'm in love? You know I did what I did, you loaded the gun. And I don't wanna think about you anyway. I do it anyway. Yeah, didn't mean to do it every day. I do it anyway. I do
Test 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 test. Um, I'm new to this, so I'm new to this Skype stuff, so I've been trying to do this through PC, so I have the app on my phone, so it's like, no worries. Go ahead. Obviously, it was a real difficult result here tonight. It's been somewhat of a trend for your team all season long. What needs to improve going forward?
Well, I mean, anytime the opposition has five goals, but only 4 of shots on goal, you know there's a problem. I think our team was the first team in the history of the USL to have a legit assist on an own goal. So that's how bad of a night it was for us. As a coach, I got to be patient. You know, I picked these guys, I gave them their chance, and some of them just aren't embracing it. Some of them are still in this world where they think that they can just do their own thing and it's just going to work out. So I feel bad for them, but I am embarrassed. I'm embarrassed as a coach. I'm embarrassed for them as players. I will leave you with this. I only have a little sister. I don't have a little brother. But I feel like if I would have had a little brother, I would have never let him beat me up in a million years. And that's what happened tonight. We got beat up by a bunch of kids, and we should be embarrassed for that.
Of course, it'd be better. There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa, and I am accompanied today by some really good guests. Obviously, we have my co-host, Jacob Young, which you will see right now. Jacob, how are you doing? Yeah, it's promising. It's really, really promising, and start all over again. All right, we can do this. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Down in the Valley. My name is Edson Ochoa. Down in the Valley, brought to you by Roughneck Scarves and Golden Gold Press. Today, as you heard right now, we've had Jacob Young, co-host, just like every week. That we're really, really glad to have him on, and you can see him right there. But this week, we're also joyed to have the presence of none other than Rey Silva of South Texas Border Sports. Ray, how you doing?
For having me on, sir. Good evening, and thank you for having me on, Edson.
There we go. These OBS, I swear, guys. So sorry about that. Ray, thank you so much. First of all, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the show once again to talk about the Toros. It's gonna be a really interesting show tonight. Like we said, we are going to be talking about Las Vegas Lights that we played last Saturday. We're also going to be talking about this match because this is a pregame show for tonight's RGVFC match versus Los Dos or LA Galaxy 2. But first of all, let's go ahead and start with everything. So we came to this show or to this game on Saturday. I think you were the one that was more kind of hyped up about it. Yeah, you were confident that the Toros were going to get the win. But were you or did you really expect a scoreline that the one that ended up happening?
Of course not. I mean, no one can expect a team to score 5 goals. I mean, and a great example of this would be, I think it was last season with the home opener for Houston Dynamo. Did Houston Dynamo expect to get that glorious victory over Atlanta United? I don't think either they expected or they wanted a win for sure, but it just happened out of the blue just like that. And so, yeah, I wasn't expecting the Toros to score 5 goals and for the play to be something like that. I expected Las Vegas Lights to give us a more challenge. But that's what you can kind of expect when you looked at their record, when you looked at Las Vegas, how well they did on the road compared to how well they did at home and who they played and what sort of thing for that exact example. And so it was shocking to see the scoreline the way it was, but in a way, of course, I'm glad that the scoreline was that way. And at the same time, it just goes to show you how tough it is to play in the USL on the road.
Ray, what were you expecting out of coming into this match?
Coming into this match, I was certainly expecting a lot of give and go, a lot of a tussle, a lot of a battle in the midfield, some rash challenges, albeit I was expecting one of those scrappy games where, it was ultimately going to be decided by a big mistake by either side defensively. Therefore, I predicted a cautious 1-0 win. And I'm glad we got our 3 points. We've moved on, and now we've got this short turnaround at Los Dos.
See, but here's the thing, though. Jacob and I were, and I think he kind of mentioned it a little while ago. We were analyzing, just based on score lines, so not doing any deep analysis or anything like that. We leave that up to the experts. But looking at the score lines for Las Vegas, we came up with a couple of conclusions. Number one, Las Vegas Lights is horrible away. Number two was that this 5-0 scoreline where they defeated Tacoma Defiance was the sugarcoat for how Las Vegas Lights actually played. And I think we saw that this week. This is a team that, from what I saw, that they're so focused in attack, that they leave themselves super vulnerable in the back and open the doors for the Toros, who have a lot of speedy players, to take advantage of that and go for the counter.
Exactly, and I had made some comments on my article leading up to that game, with regards to Las Vegas, that in their last 3 results that they had on the road, they had only gotten a draw, and they laid in a porous 7 goals. But to expect a 5-goal glut out of RGV was totally unexpected. And however, when I did predict that 1-0 win, I figured they would show a little bit more grit, a little bit more grind out of them, because after all, they were the bit more mature team on paper. It just something that became really the result just surprised me.
And I guess, the result surprised all of us, but it goes to show you how well a young team can be in this USL. Not to mention that, of course, it was a home match for us, but just going back to this type of game and what type of lineup we had too is something not to be shy about. considering the fact that Malik Foster is only going to be with RGVFC for so much longer, and he looked like one of the best players on the pitch. And of course, yes, we can make all the jokes that we want. It was bad luck that we got jinxed when when Las Vegas scored those 2 straight goals. But with all those jokes aside, it was, of course, those mistakes, those lapses once again that happened on the defensive end that made us, give up 2 goals. Yes, one was off of a set piece.
Now, but the thing is, you got to give Las Vegas credit, because one of their biggest, strengths this season has been, set pieces, and both goals were set pieces. A throw-in can be considered a set piece. They had a specific play that I'm sure they practice in matches for certain scenarios for a long throw-in inside the box, and they were able to capitalize it correctly. And also the second goal. I think it's something that Eric Winalda has pretty much worked with his team for. However, the thing is, with this match, their weaknesses, pretty much outweigh that strength. Because if you're only going to try to make a difference with that only strength with your set pieces, then if things don't go your way 100%, then you have nothing to get back to. Now, remember Tulsa. We always talked about, most of their goals have been in set pieces, etc., etc. What happened when they went against the Toros? They didn't really do good in set pieces. However, with their outside the box shot, they had other alternatives to try to break apart this defense. Obviously, it was a penalty and a shot from outside the box. But they had the talent to look for those opportunities and try to capitalize from them. Las Vegas, I didn't really see much of that. Now, you have to add to this mix the fact that Michael Nelson was in his day, like almost every time he plays with RGVFC. And when you have a goalkeeper that is really inspired and has the confidence during a match, it's almost impossible to score a goal against them.
Yeah, no, you do bring up a good point for that. And it's just, Michael Nelson did play a fantastic game on Saturday, considering that it could have easily been a 5-3 game, 5-4, could have ended up becoming a draw of 5-5 too, because Michael Nelson did make some big saves in the closing stages of this game. But then it goes back to, why was the defense being that way? Why did the defense have to leave it up to Michael Nelson to save those last shots? And so, yes, you can give Las Vegas Lights the credit that you want, that at the closing stages of the game, Las Vegas Lights looked like Las Vegas Lights. But there's still this, question of, this back line was supposed to be our savior in a way, was supposed to be the best part of this team, and now the offense shows up and that defense kind of degraded. I understand that at parts of times, especially when you're up 3-0, 4-1 and 5-2, that you're going to end up making a park the bus scenario and more of a counter-attacking scenario. But it's just tough to see that 2 of those goals were kind of gifted to you. And then, of course, it's simple to say that this game could have gone a different way if those 2 goals hadn't. And would they have parked the bus? I don't know. But with Michael Nelson having to come up big in the closing stages of the game makes the question, what's this defense going to do tonight?
Right?
Yes, and to further add, Las Vegas came in being one of the better set pieces teams on the road, which is how they've been getting the vast majority of their goals, whether they play home or on the road. But it was just something that during open play our defense was able to stop, thankfully, and thus the result was the score line that we had. Now, however, Coach Echeverry did mention it during the post conference interview that the stopping set pieces was one of those Achilles heels that the team needed to work on, and now now we have another opportunity tonight to hopefully show that off.
Yeah, I remember that he made a comment that, specifically with this Las Vegas match, that most of Las Vegas's players are like 6 foot something, and the Toros don't really have a lot of super tall players that'll go up against them. So just going in on that, there's a specific disadvantage in set pieces, as long as you have a team that is able to capitalize on said set pieces. Another thing that I do want to point out about this game is that while they did capitalize a lot in the counterattacks, I still feel that some of these attacking players need a little bit more experience in counters. And what I mean by that is there were many opportunities, specifically during the end of the match, where Las Vegas was super desperate and trying to find another goal. That I think like they were like even their outside backs were hitting out on the attack. They were very vulnerable for the counters, and there were many times where either it's Chewy or I'm trying to remember who it was. I think Malik, or in the midfield Isidro, where they had opportunities to make a pass, make a through ball over to Malik or over to Carlos Small, but they took a little bit too much time and ended up, having their teammate getting caught in an offside position. And I just feel like if they tweak their timing a bit, I feel like this would have been a higher scoring game.
I do concur with you. Yes, that they've may have taken too long to find that extra pass and whatnot. It's just one of those things in soccer that if it gives, it gives. I mean, satisfied with the result, yes. Could we have gotten at least a few more before the first half ended? Of course, but uh, now we just got Los Dos to worry about and see if we can get our first positive result on the road
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah, and I guess I mean, Ray just said it all. We need to focus on tonight, but and of course this team, I think even Edson and I kind of talked about it with this quick little turnaround, is they're probably going to only get, or they probably only got um, time to just look at the film from last game. Same with coach, probably only got time to do that, and maybe sit down with most of the players, or just sit down with the whole team and say, you did this wrong and you need to do something better with that. So of course, I don't necessarily think that they got a lot of practice time outside from that game, because of course it's recover to get back to this game tonight on Wednesday, considering that they flew out yesterday, or got there yesterday, and then of course Monday it was just basically 2 days after this game. So I don't necessarily see that a lot of the players or everyone's going to just instantly click on the whole movement, but I do see, of course, some moves that coach will probably make for just a lineup. Will we see Carlos Small start? I think we actually will, and we'll see someone else coming off of the bench in that attacking form. Now, of course, defensively, yes, I think we'll see a bit of a change, just so that he can get those players that played the game on Saturday some rest, because we all know that it's going to just be a struggle. This game, of course, we want a victory, but it most likely won't happen, and I do see a tie tonight. But of course, not even a week later, we play the Portland Timbers too, and I think that's where you'll see that full roster come back to play. And just like Jerson said, we're going to have to dip into this pool of reserves in a way, the pool of bench, because we have a deep bench, and so it's going to help us in this long run for the season. Of course, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with the lineup changing, and if these players have learned, if the starters that started at Las Vegas have kind of learned from their mistakes and can just focus on that back line.
Yeah, so from what I can assume, I think we'll start seeing, because of the short turnaround, like you said, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of the reserves playing. Kevin Rodriguez, Brad Dunwell, Victor Garza. We might see some more thing out of Victor Garza today. Maybe Zach Jackson. All these players that haven't gotten a lot of minutes so far this season. I think we might see them today, because the big test, like you said, is next week, next Tuesday, against Portland Timbers 2, who is right now number 1 in the Western Conference, and that's a game where you will want to have your number 1 players out there on the pitch.
And I fully agree that we are going to see some wholesale changes, like maybe even up to 6 different players. Some of the players that come to mind are Hector Copete and Nico Lemoyne, whom we might see a vastly a very, very young lineup. We might see the guys like Nico Lemoyne, Hector Copete, maybe some more Robert Coronado, maybe Connor Donovan, per se, and even Kyle Adams. Not much of a change, because I know we've had some Dynamo players sent down, and those guys have been taking up the minutes that normally your Kyle Adamses would get and all that stuff. So, and maybe even some more Romilio, because
sorry to interrupt, Ray. So, guess who's on loan for tonight?
oh no,
Tyler Derrick.
oh geez, yay. So no, so probably Cordy will be on the bench for that one. So that's gonna help out a little bit.
And so he's the only Dynamo player that's going to be loaned down to RGV for this match, which means, like you said, we probably will see a lot more. Maybe Coronado and all these players that you've mentioned, which will be interesting. And I think that's one of the reasons why Tyler Derrick was loaned down, is because since they're going to be using a lot younger players, they're probably going to want some sort of security out back in the goalkeeper position with a lot more experience to be able to know how to handle these guys and position them correctly.
Yeah, and that's why I'm predicting a solid keeper in the back, which you just broke, Tyler Derrick, and now we've got the and now we've just got ourselves a probable back 4 lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that I'm looking forward to is, yes, Tyler Derrick. He's always been one of my favorite goalkeepers for sure, so I could be fanboying this a bit. But in all fairness, it's good to have Michael Nelson start sometimes, and it's good to have Tyler Derrick start. Yes, it gives Cordy a break. And, of course, we all know what style Tyler Derrick likes to use, and he likes to yell at his team to get his team in order and things like that. And that's a perfect example and a perfect kind of help to Nico Cordy, to get Nico Cordy to learn even more, because, yes, you never learn as well as if you're actually doing the thing. But if you're watching someone, of course, do this and sort of like the way that you're supposed to do it, then that's a great thing for the future. And of course, we can't always stress this enough, that this is what the Toros are made of. We're a farm team. We're a team that wants our players to grow, wants our players to go not to a different USL team, may I mind you, but to an actual MLS team, to the Premier League, to wherever. We want them to progress in their career instead of just stay at the same level. So that's always going to be a good thing, to give Cordy rest and to get Cordy to learn some more things, because, yes, one game was actually kind of a stressful one with Nico Cordy on goal, and that was actually the win versus OKC Energy, because, of course, he did have some scary moments at that time. But now, of course, he's been learning a bit more and he's been practicing. He probably has gotten all those things taken care of. Of course, the defense has to help him with that because, well, communication is always going to be key. So that's always going to be a good thing. So, yeah, with Tyler Derrick behind goal, that's going to be great for this back line. And, yeah, I think I see Connor Donovan probably still playing there just due to the fact that he's still coming off of an injury. He needs all the minutes that he can get. He needs to get used to road games for the rest of the season. Of course, this injury that he did have has kind of set him back. He's not really looking to play for the Houston Dynamo at the moment. He's just looking to try to get back to the level that he probably can play, maybe Open Cup or something like that.
So, just a quick shout out to the chat. So my dad says, key word for today is confidence. They already know that they can score goals. The floodgates have opened. Identity in Sport tells us LA scores a lot of goals, but they give up a lot of goals. If the Toros are solid in back, then it should be a good game. Tyler Derrick will be solid in between the sticks. So, welcome Identity in Sport. Welcome to the channel. Hope you enjoy the show. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this stream with everyone and that's a Toros fan. You know, we're trying to do our best to give a little bit of coverage. You know, open up some topics, some discussions, not only for us but for all of y'all as well. Be sure to give us your opinions on the chat. We really value your opinion, and it gives us an insight of what the fans think about this team so far. Because I know it was interesting in the beginning of the season when things weren't doing so good. We got a lot of interesting insight that we talked about, you know, with a couple of other fans. And I think now that we're doing good, I would like to get to know, or we would like to know, what you all think so far. But yeah, going back into this discussion, you know, Identity in Sport is right. You know, you look at not Las Vegas, but you look at LA Galaxy 2, and it's a black or white thing with them. Number one, they haven't tied any games. They've lost and won. So, and then it's one end of the other. They either score a lot of goals or they get scored on a lot of goals. So will be interesting to see what y'all think there. So far, LA Galaxy 2 has lost 4-1 in their opener against Colorado Springs Switchbacks, won 3-0 against Tacoma Defiance, lost 5-0 against Real Monarchs, won 3-2 against Portland Timbers 2, won 4-2 against Tulsa Roughnecks. That one was actually a surprise for a lot of people because of how well Tulsa was playing. And then they lost 2-0 just recently this Saturday. Wait, is this right? Against San Antonio FC. And so now they're going to be playing back at home at Dignity Health Sports Park against the Toros.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that is a black and white team for sure, because you don't know what may happen for sure. But one thing that I think I heard you say from the chat or something like that is, or no, actually add, now that I recall it, is that, yes, the Toros, the earlier games in the season that they struggled with were the games where they had a lot of possession and weren't really able to not necessarily find the net, but just find the inside of the pitch where they could actually get a shot on goal. And what I'm saying is like 20 yards where they could get a shot off. So that's one thing to look at. How is this LA Galaxy 2 team going to play against RGVFC? Are they going to give them all the possession or make RGVFC have to kind of chase the game? And that's something that has kind of also been a story of this season, is how our team's going to play against us and what's our reaction going to do, because we kind of know that we've chased a couple of games this season and it's not necessarily gone our way. Yes, we had that draw against our first point versus the Locomotive. I don't want to call them Moscow, but the Locomotive FC team, basically. And so it kind of goes back to that. And how are they going to play us will be a key, and how are we going to be able to respond is going to be the face of tonight. And I think what's going to happen is they're going to kind of be on their heels, letting us get that possession and trying to counter, because we can also do that at the same time, but it's just going to be a matter of who decides where to go and who's going to control this game.
So, this match against San Antonio, this was 11 days ago. Ray, my question to you is, how is this going to affect Los Dos coming into this match against the Toros? Do you think it's going to affect it positive or negatively?
That's a very good question. I would like to say positively, because now they can finally get some playing time. Now, I just hope that they're not greatly benefited with the low knee of Efrain Alvarez, who was a young sensational stud for them last season, who got called up by the LA Galaxy, and now he could be sent down on loan to play against us. And another thing to factor in is that historically RGV has never had a positive result against Los Dos. We are 0-4-4 all time against this team. From the inaugural match, which they had Ari Letizier and Jack McBean score against us from the home opener match in our inaugural season to now. We just haven't been able to solve this LA2 team. We just haven't. And last season we had the La Tragedia moment happen, where at the near to death they've equalized against us.
Yeah, and this is one of those surprising things, because we've never beaten Los Dos, even when we had the best team of our history back in 2016, and they were the worst team in the Western Conference. Yet they would come either to HEB Park or we would go over to their park, and they would always manage to get a result. It's just so mind-boggling at times how, I don't know if it's the system that LA2 plays with complicates the Toros, but it's just something to wonder that kind of leaves you a bad taste in your mouth going into this match. That historically, Los Dos pretty much leaves a sour taste in our mouths.
And not only that, but I'm just praying and hoping that Los Dos don't send down Ari Letizier to play against us, because that guy has had our number. Mm-hmm. I want to say he's had like 3 or 4 goals against us all time in those 8 meetings.
Yeah. This is, though, a different team than the teams that we've had in any season, considering last year was basically a rebuild of a team. And, of course, yes, they had a lot of bad luck with conceding late goals or just not getting results done at home without scoring. And so now, of course, they're scoring a bit of goals. And I think it could be a bit different in that sense, since they're able to score goals. The only thing is, of course, this game is a road game. But you talk about that Los Dos, the first time that RGVFC ever played them, well, that was a opener, and let me tell you something, they didn't have a lot of minutes playing as a team. Now this team is a bit more, they're a bit more gelled this year, and so it's going to be an interesting match for sure. I think the past few times that Los Dos have really played against them, it's because they've had, loanees on their team that have made this, I guess, that Los Dos team better because, of course, LA Galaxy, they always want, or just LA in general, always want results because it is technically Hollywood. Wherever the stadium is located, yeah,
Carson.
it is California. So, yeah.
Yep. Go ahead and sip, Jacob. Go ahead and sip.
No, I don't know. You know, I feel like I have this feeling that I think today is going to be the day that curse or that paternity by Los Dos towards the Toros is going to be broken. I honestly feel that this long break for Los Dos is going to affect them negatively. I think they're going to be they're going to be losing their what's the phrase I'm looking for?
Their mojo.
They're gonna lose.
Their
They're gonna
mojo,
lose.
their
Yeah, they're gonna
momentum.
lose their mojo because I highly doubt they had any scrimmages in that bye week. Just like it's rare for any other USL team to have a scrimmage during a bye week. It's just gonna be just practices and playing again inter squad scrimmages, but not against other teams. So I have a feeling that because RGV is coming in through a positive, they're coming in confident as a team, and Los Dos is probably gonna have to shake a little bit of rust in this match. I'm not saying it's going to be a blowout like last time, but I have a feeling that we might take this win by at least one goal.
And right now, only because Los Dos has had a significant amount of time off, um, I expect them to play very, very gritty, real tight, a lot of close matchups in the midfield where I think RGV should have an advantage. Therefore, like I predicted in my article for this week, I am going to predict another 1-0 road win, and we finally break the road win schneid.
Yeah, I honestly believe that too. Um, I think, like you said, the biggest question is because I'm looking at the LA Galaxy and LA Galaxy 2 Twitter accounts, as well as their webpage, and they haven't announced anything as far as loanees. Now, I'm not sure if they even do that, like where they announce like loanees going down to Los Dos or anything like that. But so far, I haven't seen anything that tells me that Alvarez or that other player you mentioned, Ray, will be playing with Los Dos tonight. We're probably won't expect like actual lineups to be released until 8:30 our time, because kickoff will be at 9:30 our time, Central Time. So usually lineups aren't released until like an hour before the match is set to begin. So I think towards the end of the show, we will see who is going to start for the Toros, who is going to start for LA Galaxy 2. Then, based on that, we can give a better prediction of this game so far.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm looking at the LA2 roster right now, and they have Efrain Alvarez on their roster, and they even have their veteran striker Ethan Zubak and Frank Lopez, who were part of the team last season, and they even have a former Toro in their roster,
Omar Ontiveros.
Omar Tiveros. Yeah,
But
that's
remember,
gonna
Ray,
be.
real quick, remember that same goes for RGVFC on their USL page. RGVFC has a lot of loanees from Houston too. When will we see those loanies? We haven't seen them this season just yet. So it could be where just none of them even show up for this game.
Yeah, because remember
Hey.
we have Ronaldo Pena on the roster, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Yes, that may be true, but just it's just one of those things that is out there right now uh, to have a little bit of caveat and tinkering ideas with their lineup.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see what happens. You know, I'm looking at our roster. So number one, we already know it's going to be Tyler Derrick in goal. All right. So based on players that have not gotten minutes in the defense, I want to say it'll be Sergio Mena. Hold on. I have a feeling that we might see Sergio Mena, Robert Castellanos, who hasn't gotten a lot of minutes. Zach Jackson. And I'm trying to find another center back. And I think, like you said, we might see Connor Donovan just because of his leadership or experience. So, if anything, I will probably not see a change in both center backs, maybe just one. But I know for sure it'll probably be our outside backs that we might see a change. And I have it's going to be a high probability for me to see that we're going to see either Zach Jackson or who else did I say? Zach Jackson or Sergio Mena, who played a couple of minutes against the Las Vegas Lights. And I think he looked really well. And I think Robert Castellanos might actually see some minutes too. In the midfield, I'm going to say we're going to see the return of Brad Dunwell. Maybe some minutes to Andres Arcila, Victor Garza, and who else? Maybe Copete as well. We might see those four. I think they're going to be giving rest to Chuy. They're going to be giving rest to Isidro because they've been playing so many minutes so far. Especially Isidro. If I'm not mistaken, he's played, if not all, most of the minutes so far in this season.
I'm gonna go ahead and say that Chuy Enriquez starts only because this might be a little bit of a homecoming for him. So I say that we're starting with Chuy Enriquez. That might be my only counter to your little lineup there.
Well, I think he had his homecoming last year, didn't he, with all those fans? So yes, I think there will be fans cheering him on in the
you know who
stands.
who else is going to get a homecoming, and it has been confirmed that there's going to be a lot of people cheering. They're going to be cheering for Robert Coronado.
Yep, that's another guy who I like in my starting 11.
Yeah, that's probably true that we'll see Robert Coronado there, but I'm with Edson on this one. I don't see Chuy Enriquez starting this match just due to the fact that, well, of course, he had his homecoming last season. And yes, there will be a lot of fans cheering on, shockingly, for the Toros. But, yeah, Chuy Enriquez coming off the bench, I think that's the best. I think that's the best scenario, just due to the fact that on Tuesday we play the number one team, the Portland Timbers 2, which all of a sudden are a different team than we really expected them to, because we've seen them on the bottom of the table.
I don't think it's all of a sudden though, because last year they made playoffs. So this is for Timbers 2. This is a process in the making. Now they seem to have gotten, not only have they gotten a decent academy started and kind of pumping out talent into the 2 system, but also they're bringing in a couple of experienced players like Todd Warden, to kind of solidify and their weaknesses with the midfield. I mean, you got to remember that Todd Warden has been one of the more precise passers in the Western Conference, and we just gave him up too easily because of the way Matt Jordan and the Houston Dynamo want to see, the Toros, where like you're only given 2-3 years under the Toros, and if you don't make it to the Dynamo, then bloop, you're out, kind of thing. So, and I think that's why we're seeing a Timbers 2, which, by the way, I see that Timbers scarf up on top, that are pretty much one of the best teams in the USL. Now, I honestly have a feeling, and I know we're getting ahead on the subject, although not really, because this game is going to be before our next show. So I think it's safe to say that we can kind of talk about it, even pending the results of today against LA Galaxy 2. I think we can discuss a little bit about Portland Timbers 2. But what I was trying to say, that I don't doubt that the Toros, the way it looks like right now, especially with this vote of confidence this 5-2 gave, I don't doubt that this team can put up a fight against Timbers 2.
Yeah, I 100% agree that we could probably put up a fight against them due to the fact that it's kind of the same thing. We're kind of on that path that, well, the Red Bulls too have been on as well. And of course, now the Portland Timber 2s are, we're, like you said, we're seeing that exactly happen with the program that's behind them now. And the program that was behind the Red Bulls too, which ended up, guess what, winning a championship. So it's a possibility that a lot of these two teams are coming together and actually figuring this thing out, figuring out what they actually need to do. So it's going to be a good match. It's going to be young talent versus young talent, basically. And as we can tell, that's the way to go now. Because those teams, those senior teams that get beaten by little kids, it's starting to take effect. So, I mean, it's going to happen one way or another, and I think that's the way to go for the rest of the USL as well.
Right?
Going back to what you guys were saying about Portland and about them being pumping out players, one thing you got to remember is that Portland has been has been out longer than some of the teams in the USL. Like, for example, you've got the Sounders 2 or Tacoma Defiance, Portland 2, which they have been like USL 2 sides that have been established for quite some time, and yet they're barely figuring out like how to develop their players in their system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing to that's just one thing to put into consideration, and that's just something I do see with our beloved Toros. The same thing can be said about the Real Monarchs. They're also one of those teams that are established, but yet they are barely figuring things out and how to build players for Real Salt Lake too.
Mm-hmm.
And to see the way we gave up Todd Wharton the way we did, and some of these other players, well, now we're going to be seeing them play against us this week, and also the coming week when we see Todd Wharton. It's just going to be one of those things where I hope we don't end up biting ourselves.
I think the biggest thing or the biggest question mark was Todd Wharton, because of the experience that he brought to the table. I think that would have been the biggest question. With Omar Ontiveros, it was more along the lines that he was from the Valley, and nobody knows why he was let go or transferred. I'm not sure if it was a transfer where he became a free agent after last season, and that's why LA Galaxy 2 scooped him up. Now this is not a knock against Omar Ontiveros or much less Kyle or Connor. It's just one of those things where, and I mentioned it last week. This was a player from the region, and the team didn't do a lot to keep him. Maybe he might not be one of the best center backs of the USL, but it's a huge plus to have him be a face of the team because he's from the region. We lost Brandon Morales as well with his commitment to Cornell.
That's okay. I'm gonna stop you right there. We're gonna have Brandon Morales towards like the end of July, because obviously soccer camps or soccer training, college soccer training camps began in early August, and their season starts like right in the middle of it. So they get like 2 weeks training time to prepare for their first matches in men's college soccer.
So, it reminds me. I don't know if Blues fan is still right there watching the show right now, but he did have a question last week that I wanted to ask you, and it had to do more than anything because of NCAA. But he asked the question of, in the case of Brandon Morales, so he became a professional, he decides to go back to college, play college over there, you name it. What are the chances for once he graduates from college, for him to come back to the Toros as a professional?
Well, being that Brandon Morales is labeled as an amateur contract by USL statuses, that means the benefits of him getting say like a full contract like a USL professional are slim to none. Additionally, once Brandon decides to either turn professional after his junior year or even after his junior year, that is something that is up to the Dynamo to get, because that's our that's like our homegrown player per se, but yet under the Houston Dynamo umbrella, they're the ones that has the final say. Um, and I kind of hope to have answered that question for Blues fans.
So what you're saying is that even if Brandon decides to want to come back and play for the Toros and decides to not commit himself to the draft, his
well, regardless whether he commits to the draft or not, that is just something uh, that the Dynamo decides at the end of the day, whether he should come back or not. That's all dependent on the Dynamo. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Toros would welcome him back. Why not? But it would just be something that the Dynamo would have to give the green light on bringing him back.
So just to clarify, if Brandon Morales decides to commit himself to the draft, then there is no such thing as that the Dynamo or RGV have a bigger priority over him come the draft, the MLS Super Draft.
Exactly.
It's all about if the Dynamo get to him, then that's all fine and dandy. But if somebody else picks him, then the Dynamo and Toros are kind of screwed or not screwed, but tough luck on that. That's why you saw this past MLS Super Draft. I believe it was Orlando City. They wasted a top pick in this past draft to get a player from that was from the vicinity of Orlando. because of the fact that I think he was a homegrown player, if I'm not mistaken, Ray. But because he decided to commit himself to the draft, they had to waste that draft pick to get him before anybody else could.
Yeah, and that's just the luck of the draw, you know. If Brandon should be available, whether it's via the draft or even free agency, because remember, MLS draft only has like 3-4 rounds of draft picks,
Correct.
and and after that, and if there's nothing if there's uh, if there's room for him in the Dynamo system and in the Toro system, well, why not?
Yeah.
But until then, I mean, it's very much a 50-50 toss up to get him back after college.
Yeah, and there was another question that was actually posted on in that episode last week, and that was, we're starting to see this trend prof, of players that are playing under professional team, not necessarily under professional contract, that are opting to go back to college and play in collegiate instead of staying and
Hmm.
being a quote unquote professional team. Do you think this marks as some sort of a bad thing for USL, whether League One, League Two, or Championship, or do you think this is more along the lines of something else?
That's a good question, because a lot of these players don't have their futures guaranteed playing professionally. So a lot of these players, what they do is that, okay, yes, they have a what do you call it, a professional club per se that they'll play like during the
Mm-hmm.
summer, but that's just only during the summer. Now, come to when it's the collegiate season, that's going to be something um, that will vary because, of course, of the team that they're with. Now, for example, you have Cornell that's located in New York, and they're a team that may struggle to get home games. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cornell comes down to Texas to have a match or two with only the 3, 4 Texas schools that there are available, or even go down to Florida to have their matches. It just depends. Now, a lot of these college programs, what they'll do in order to get their kids more to get them into fitness, into shape, they'll end up letting them play USL League Two, and if they're good enough to join the League One, well, guess what? Or even the USL Championship, guess what? Those contracts cannot be professional. They would have to be under the amateur umbrella.
Because that's the way that the NCAA is.
Yeah.
We're all amateurs, and you can do nothing about
And
it.
you're not getting
Because
paid,
if
so
you do
screw
something
you.
about it, you get kicked out. Exactly.
I don't care if you're dying of hunger. You can't get paid at all.
Exactly.
But that's a
Even if someone offers you a sandwich, you cannot take
That's a
that.
bunch of bullocks. And I'm not saying that it's a lie, but I'm just more along like what the hell kind of thing. You see in all these cases come up where it's something like you said, something as innocent as that, and you get in trouble with NCAA. Oh, but well, mostly in football or basketball, they earn millions and millions off of these student athletes. But let's change the subject. So hopefully, Blues fan, hopefully this answers your question. Blues fan says, I think my question was meant towards USL keeping its youth product, making the career out of it possible, over losing youth players to the NCAA. And then he says, what will it take for the USL Championship or League One to make it enticing to keep youth product to stay the course?
Uh, just better fringe benefits overall. I mean, that's why they have the Players Association. That would probably be the biggest thing. It's probably going to be more towards the benefits that these young academy products would get. Uh, you have, for example, the Toros Idea School. Uh, yes, they can get educated through there, and yes, you see a lot of these academy products signing collegiate collegiate deals. Hello, Mr. Alex Centeno. Um, that's what it's going to take for these USL products and youth academies to try to keep their young their young bright stars. It's just a lot of but they're going to have to provide a lot of the amenities in order to keep them there. I mean, it's just plain and simple. If you've got the resources to keep a lot of your young players and keep them from joining a Division One, an NAIA, a Division Two, or Division Three, or even a junior college, then they're on the right path of keeping these guys in their system. It just depends on the matter of resources.
I don't know.
Of it's all dependent on these USL teams' their resources.
And I just think this is complicated for a lot of, especially the lower end, not including MLS2 clubs, but lower end independent USL clubs that are struggling with finances, right then with their core players, to have enough finances to give these French benefits, like you say, to these young up and coming homegrown players, or even young players coming out of, if they have an academy or something, in order to keep them and not get lured by NCAA, that while they're not getting any payment out of playing collegiate at NCAA, they at least are getting something back in when it comes to like a degree. So if they see, college as something long term, where like I can continue developing there in collegiate. Once I graduate, I have a degree I can fall back on in case if I do decide to go back to playing professional and I don't make it, I at least have this to fall back on. Whereas with professional, you're not being paid a lot, and so number one, most of your time is taken by the sport, where you play, practices, video sessions, games, travel, etc., where you can't get like a side job or anything like that if you try to want to make ends meet. Whereas more than likely, if you go to college, you have room and board at a dorm or an apartment, something like that. You have that taken care of, and as well, like I said, you're getting a degree to fall back on, and I think that is why we're seeing these players kind of go towards that. Now, my question to you is, and we know we've discussed this before, how bad is it for these amateur players under amateur contracts, for them in these teams, that they're willing to go to collegiate, where it's completely different the way the game is played, and a lot of people kind of see it as a regression in their development rather than staying professional? Because a lot of people say, well, I mean, you're already there, why not just make the most out of it? Because there's a lot of players that wish they could be under an amateur contract right now in a pro team, and these players have an opportunity and they decide to go back to college.
It is a very, very big disadvantage when it comes to one or the other, because when you're in college, you don't have, like, once your season's over in like mid-November, it's like you can't even touch a ball through the rules. I mean, uh, in college, if you play like a side game and you get seriously hurt, well, then you're pretty much on your own trying to cover for medical bills. Now, if you're like playing in a professional schedule, whether it be a USL one or even USL Championship, um, then the chances, you, I mean, the chances of getting hurt are still going to be there, but at least that you're having to pay out of pocket for those expenses are reduced significantly.
Depending on what team you're signed for, though, that's the thing.
Exactly. So there's a little bit of everything to put on a balance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult decision. I personally, thankfully, I'm not a someone that is a soccer player and just But if I was put into the decision, I would think long term and fall back on. I mean, you look at it this way that there are some teams like we've said before that I think it was Nipun Chopra who posted in his article saying that a lot of teams don't even offer health insurance to their players. So you have the same thing in college in case you get injured or anything like that. You're gonna have to pay out of pocket for either private health insurance or the whole operation per se. But the difference is that you have this degree to fall back on. Obviously, if you choose correctly, your degree. So one, something that you like, and two, something that'll have job opportunities once you graduate. So, like I said, it's all about what your needs and wants are in that moment of your life specifically, which I applaud Brandon Morales for taking such a hard decision and looking out for his future like that. So yeah, just brought that up because I know I left that pending. We were supposed to answer that last week. We didn't get a chance to, but what better opportunity to have, to ask that when Rey is on because of his exposure to collegiate sports.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll give you a nice example. I got to see Cesar Martinez. I was fortunate enough to see Chalin Martinez play all 4 years at UTRGV, and now I'm getting to see the boy flourish in college, and it's such a feel good story that he was able to play at Brownsville Rivera, able to make the state tournament, and perhaps win and he was the MVP of the tournament, and as well as play all 4 years collegiately with UTRGV, and now flourishing as a pro. It's such a feel good story with him.
Mm-hmm. Jacob?
Yeah. A lot to break down from what Rey said, but it is always going to be a tough decision to choose college over basically you've got your life set in a way. And of course, yes, it all depends on which team you get put on, even for NCAA for men's, because of course that's one of the sports that's really tough to just get a full ride scholarship as well, considering that all the scholarships mainly will go to the big sports of basketball, some of baseball, and of course the majority going back to American football. So it's very tough. And from the one thing that
I will tell you this much, Jacob. Having the background that I do have in collegiate sports, I would probably guess the most difficult one to manage as far as the scholarships are concerned are the baseball ones, because you have a 35-man roster, which is your NCAA maximum, and you only got 11.7 scholarships to give out.
yeah,
Whereas in soccer, yet you may have that same amount of maximum roster, or perhaps even less, but you got a little bit more wiggle room with the scholarships to deal with.
yeah, exactly. But from one thing that I've also kind of seen from the short time that I've been around the whole amateur talk and USL talk to college, and seeing, of course, a couple of kids deciding to take that type sort of route is that, yeah, a lot of them come to the USL first. And then, of course, they decide to go on to college, which is something pretty interesting considering now they've got an advantage on, well, players that they've experienced harder, faster soccer than, well, kind of weaker and slower soccer in the NCAA realm. And why I say that is because, well, it's kind of the truth. We've seen it now with both of Houston's signees, I should say, that got loaned down and are kind of, staying here for a long time with the Toros.
Ray, do you think that, for example, now that MLS are starting to churn out, or starting to get the hang of, production in their academies at a young age, starting to see now with the implementation of MLS 2 teams giving their academy players, a possibility of playing in a professional environment at such a young age, whether in championship or in League One in some cases. Do you think that this will be a plus or will help improve the level of NCAA soccer?
That's a very interesting question. For as long as the NCAA does not change their habits having of having the shortest turnaround times between games, I don't see that ever happening. I really don't see it. I mean, just to give you an example, UTRGV is in the Western Athletic Conference, and the Western Athletics men's conference soccer. Within the last 5-6 years, they've had like 2 mini powerhouses show up at the NCAA tournament, and it just almost seems like the recruiting classes of the teams that are like behind it are just right there. They're at that final cusp of making that jump. However, the desperation between making that final jump and turning pro, it's a very, very fine line. I mean, uh, easily I can give you 2 names off the UTRGV roster that could easily go pro and help out other USL squads, or perhaps even 3 players, in my opinion, that can easily help out other USL squads that are not named Toros.
Bring up a decent point in that, and I think it goes with anything, where it doesn't matter what kind of talents you have, but if the ones that run it are not willing to adapt and are stuck in their old ways, that's why a lot of people mention that going back to collegiate is a step back in the developmental process for a player. But if the pro teams don't make it enticing for this young talent to stay with them, then what good is this talent for anyway for them to keep. All right, let me rephrase that. If they don't make the changes and they don't make it enticing for them to stay at a professional level, then we might lose some of this talent that has been built in this academy. And I think that's something that needs to be fixed quickly. More financial stability out of these professional teams, especially in the lower levels, because we know for sure that right now NCAA is too big to disappear. So we just have to make sure that academies, minor league sports, lower division soccer teams to be competitive against that force.
Hmm. And that's just something that, until something changes, I mean, we're gonna be stuck with this conversation for quite some time, and it's kind of sad, but that is the American soccer system.
The old American soccer system. And yeah, I've got something to say about that as well. It's that, of course, yes, you've got this great academy, you've got these schools where basically they, right after school or right at that period and after school, they go and practice just the game that they love. Well, of course, now you're leaning towards the last part of, well, yeah, the last piece of the puzzle. What will happen when they graduate? And well, the parents get involved. All of this, they are pushing them to go to college. They're pushing them to still go that direction, just in case things don't necessarily work out in their dream of becoming this soccer player. And so when that happens, then of course you don't necessarily get that MLS dream. You just, that part's on hold. And when you get to a USL contract, an actual USL contract, not one of those little baby amateur contracts, but when you get to that actual contract there, well, now you're behind. You're behind everyone else that's basically been there since the beginning. Since they got brought up, they went straight to that. They went straight to the USL. They went straight to practicing with this team, stayed with that team, and now are on the cusp of making it to an MLS squad, and probably next, if they're good enough, if they're, well, yeah, Marisa Dew or Clint Dempsey good enough, they'll go to the Premier League. So it's just this way of, it's behind the times, and I think it will forever be behind the times because no one knows how to fix that part, and it's really tough.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you look at a player like Efrain Alvarez going to this whole LA Galaxy thing. You know, he's being hyped up as one of the best young players of his age, and he's already playing, professional with Los Dos. I believe he's gotten minutes with the LA Galaxy first team. Am I correct in that, Ray?
Yes.
So you see the development of this, and it'd be really sad if once he hits 18, if I'm assuming he's he has to still be going to high school and things like that. So once he graduates, it'd be sad to see a player like him decide to go to college instead of staying pro where he's already made it so far. Because at least in this time, he has, as far I'm assuming, an MLS contract.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there are such things that they call the the MLS Academy products or homegrown contracts, where he could be making that the MLS minimum for a homegrown Academy product. Hence, your Memo Rodriguez would be our example for our end. He's an Academy product from the Dynamo that just happens to have that type of contract. And I would be assuming that would be the same case for Efrain Alvarez.
I'm looking at because right now at this moment, LA Galaxy, the first team, is playing against Minnesota United right now, and I'm looking at the starting 11 and the bench for this match. And I don't see Efrain Alvarez at all in here.
Uh-oh.
And who was the other player you mentioned?
Ethan Zubak.
No Zubak either.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're moments away from them releasing this lineup. If, of course, well, LA is normally known for, they're supposed to be known for quickness, but of course, the traffic doesn't think so. So, of course, we don't know when we're going to get this lineup. I've been checking all the apps possible, and so far nothing for the lineups of either the Toros or LA Galaxy Dos.
What about an Ari Lassiter?
Lassiter?
Yeah.
I can check that. Lassiter. Nope. Because you have Bingham, Araujo, Steres, Polenta, Skelbeck, Corona, Jonathan Dos Santos, Leggett, Boateng, Antuna, Ibrahimovic, Lampson, Romney, Carrasco, Pontius, Juninho, Gonzalez, and Cuello. So neither of those three players that you just mentioned are at least on the bench. I'm not sure if they are up in the stands, but knowing the fact that these young players, if they're
check that. Ari Lassiter is playing for a Costa Rican club.
Okay.
Alajuelense. So check that.
Oh, you mean Malik Foster's old team?
Yes.
Well, we say Malik Foster's old team, but I believe he's going back to that same team.
You know what I
avoid
mean, Jacob.
FIFA rule. So, I mean, it's a team that he's still with. So, he's got two clubs at the moment, and one of them is wanting him back.
Let's just say the guy's here through May 31st. After June 1st, he's back on a plane to Costa Rica.
And that is very soon. We've got just 40 to 50 plus days left with Malik Foster. Take that into consideration.
Yeah, and I hear that tentatively, because he's been posting it on his Instagram, but tentatively we may not see like an actual return of Aldo Quintanilla until maybe like August or September. And he still has, still has to try. He still has to get some sort of match fitness through it as well. So we might not see a lot of attackers. Okay, so going into that, we would be losing Malik Foster in, you said June, right? Correct?
No, May 31st.
So May 31st, Malik Foster has to go back with Alajuelense.
That's June.
So we'd lose him. We'd be losing Wilmer Cabrera Jr. To Butler tentatively around August, you said?
Yep.
We don't have Aldo Quintanilla, so we'd only be left with Carlos Small and Michael Salazar up on top as a forwards. Not counting Ronaldo Pena because he's a Dynamo player with a Dynamo contract.
Mm-hmm.
So this leads me to believe that the Dynamo would have to make some movements in the transfer window, the summer transfer window, to bolster up the depth in the forwards because of all of these players that are going out.
Correct.
Yeah, and we've seen it work before too. So I think that it can be a good thing if just, of course, Houston Dynamo play their cards correct. And, of course, you got Matt Jordan helping out in that way. I mean, they got Carlos Small for crying out loud. So I think this team's going to be fine even in the summer transfer window, even in that part. I think they're going to be all right, even with the losses that they're going to get. Now, we're already seeing some movement from Aldo Quintanilla. I know you all are saying for sure, and I've seen it on his Instagram page as well, that he's saying probably not till August that you're really going to see a full return or even just a minor return from this man. But even on Instagram, you see him posting on his story that he's getting some work in with that bum knee leg that he got surgery on. And so I think, yes, we'll probably see him back in August, and that's going to be a perfect time, considering that, of course, you've got Cabrera Jr. leaving. Now goes on the other hand of, well, will his brother do anything with that time? Because, of course, now he's got to train even harder. He's probably going to end up playing. We all know that this man doesn't have to worry about school unless, of course, he just wants to go back to school to go back to school. He's already done his 4 years of college. So, and he's a midfielder. I think he can be put in this lineup, in any type of lineup this summer, and do pretty well. So I'm thinking that this team's going to be all right, even with an extra star or whatever scout Matt Jordan can find in this summer.
Right?
True,
Yeah.
true. Um, you may be 100% straight on right now, but take a look at what has happened recently in the market. Not a lot of teams are willing to loan out their player unless they are going to be guaranteed their payment and their playing time, and that's just the thing with the transfer market. Unless, like, some second or third division team in Spain or Italy are willing to loan out a young stud prospect with the assurance of getting paid uh, and getting their playing time, then that's probably the only way that you'll see the Toros make their moves, uh, courtesy the loan way. Now,
Yeah,
of
and
course,
remind me who's also on the USL roster right now too. You've got Ronaldo Pena. That man could be a key to be. Of course, he's most likely going to be sent down to the USL. The question is when, and of course, it's getting close to the summer, so that man's going to be added on for at least a month or two into the Toros lineup.
yes, and that's just all depending on the form that the Dynamo have. I mean, you're gonna have with the Dynamo, you're gonna have Albert Ellis and Mauro Manotas and Romel Kyoto. Now, I do expect for uh, Kyoto and Ellis to join the Gold Cup team. So Ronaldo Pena with the Toros might be just a mere coincidence that he's just on there now. You also got the Copa America in Brazil coming up, and Venezuela just doesn't produce footballers like they do baseball players. So Ronaldo Pena may be uh, at a loss, and it's just one of those things that comes at a mere formality that he's just on our roster for laughs and giggles.
That really is a good point. That's something that we didn't really
Mm.
uh, think about, in that aspect with Ronaldo Pena, with the Venezuela national team, uh, and Elise and Kyoto going for Gold Cup. We assume that, you know, you'll have Marlon Hairston, Memo Rodriguez covering for Elise and Kyoto if they were to leave. Uh, but you look at the Dynamo and actual strikers, it's just Ronaldo Pena and Mauro Manotas. That's it. So the Dynamo doesn't really have the luxury of sending Ronaldo Pena, even though sometimes he doesn't even come out on the bench. But they don't have that luxury to send Ronaldo Pena down to RGV. Like,
And not, and not only that, but forget about just sending them down. I mean, you were even looking at the prospect of losing Chewy Enriquez and Michael Zalazar for the Toros in the middle of the summer. I mean, there's also those two wild card factors
but
that
why would Chuy Enriquez leave?
well, I mean, why would Chewy Enriquez leave just to be called up for the Dynamo? That would be kind of like a filler for the Dynamo instead of having the Dynamo go out and spend some money out in the summer window. I mean, it's just one phone call away from getting Salazar and
Yeah,
Enriquez.
but see, the thing is that we haven't even seen him in Open Cup because last season Chuy was called, but he didn't really play, not even against NTX Rayados. So the Dynamo have no idea how Chuy Enriquez will play along with the other Dynamo players. All they know is what they saw from preseason, what they're seeing from RGV. So I don't think that they would make that big of a jump on Chuy to right away give him an MLS contract. I just
Well, I mean, a contract or not, Edson. I mean, you got to be we. I mean, you got to look out for both clubs on the long term while Jordan and his staff try to dig up some inexpensive pieces to fill in both rosters. At the meantime, I mean, mm, that's what the Toros are for, just to stop those gaps for the for the Dynamo. Just to fill in those gaps. I mean, it's sad that the Dynamo have a lot of good playing players that are going to be leaving for the Gold Cup, and we might be affected by those losses for the
You
Dynamo.
under you understand that they're going to have to do that either way. And what I mean by that is going into the market either way. Now,
Yes,
if you
yes,
send
but
down or send up our players, excuse me, to Houston Dynamo, you're still going to have to refill those gaps that you just made. Guess what? Now for the Toros. So do you want to get some more young stars? Probably, but at the same time, it's halfway through the season. You're going to have to get someone like you did for Carlos Small the past year. You're going to have to do that. Not to mention that Carlos Small, if I had to guess, will probably get called up to the Panamanian national team, considering how they feel about him. He hasn't necessarily gotten a lot of minutes now, but you've got to think, how's he going to play in this long run throughout this summer before that Gold Cup basically comes to a close or even comes to the start? So it's all these factors leading up into it. Yes, they're still going to have to go up there. So why not just go up there to and buy some players for your actual side, the Houston Dynamo, and leave this team alone, which I think, yes, there will be some moves, but there's not going to be as many moves as I think you are thinking of, Ray.
And you also
I
have,
think it's going to go
and you also have to remember that right now that there's a lot of pressure from the few fans that are showing up to BBVA Compass Stadium, that are tweeting up, talking about the team on Twitter. There is a lot of pressure. Maybe not get a Zlatan Ibrahimovic or Wayne Rooney, but get decent players, for the Dynamo. I mean, you look at all the RGV players that have come up, and most of these fans that don't know nothing about RGV, they're bashing him. They're not giving him a chance.
cough, cough, Kevin
Cough,
Garcia.
cough, Charlie Ward, and the list goes on and forever. Memo Rodriguez, the only exception, and that's because he's a Dynamo homegrown. And I do not think that if they need someone to kind of fill in that gap, especially if the Dynamo are doing good, I really do not think that they're gonna try and risk, going for or bringing up Chuy Enriquez, for it, and bringing him into the roster.
And I can kind of see your point there, Edson. But for as long as the Dynamo isn't being as proactive as they should, the Toros might suffer those consequences for meantime. I mean that's just the point that I'm trying to make here, because yes, Carlos Small was a nice get. Yes, Malik Foster was a nice get. But at the same time, I mean, there's going to be international tournaments coming up, and this is where we might have to see like the Victor Garzas of the world, the Andres Arcilas, the Camilo Monroys, uh, and the Kevin Rodriguez's perform more often than not. I mean, that's why there's that depth.
So going into the chat, Identity in Sports says it is tough economics. When some of these academy kids get full rides, 25 to 60K a year scholarship, it is tough to keep these kids when they are not making much and in long term won't make a lot of money. Then Blue says, I find that timing hilariously right before the Gold Cup where he can make some noise. And I think I think that's when we were talking about Ronaldo Pena or around there. But then he says, doubtful Ronaldo Pena joins Venezuela for the Gold Cup with Rondon and Joseph Martinez in the lineup.
That's true.
Yes, but like I said, if Venezuela, if they were to produce as many footballers like they do baseball players, fine. But I think they're going to be losing Ronaldo Pena to have a third striker in that lineup.
The only difference is we haven't seen Ronaldo Pena play that much either this year and even somewhat of last year. And I wasn't necessarily that impressed with Ronaldo Pena last year. So you're talking about a highlight tape that's almost inactive in a way. That's incomplete. So this man, yes, of course, Venezuela they're supposed to have the highest of standards, but of course, going to soccer, they've got pretty minimal standards considering what you just said, Ray. So it's going to be tough to say that he's going to go indefinitely to Venezuela, considering what has he done this year? What type of difference has he done for his team? The skill-wise, are they just going to base it off of last year? Because that's one player that you say, yeah, they're probably going to pick.
The thing is that nobody knows why nobody knows why he hasn't played. Wilmer Cabrera hasn't said anything about it. The press hasn't asked anything about it. And even if they did, you'd get the typical either a no comment or like Gerson Echeverry, or he would change the subject a la Wilmer Cabrera style. So we have no idea if this is a coach's decision or if he's injured or the fact that Ronaldo Pena isn't cutting it. Although from what I saw from the few minutes that we did see Ronaldo Pena, I think he's a good player. I think he's got potential. But he hasn't been given the opportunities to flourish and to continue developing, which is sad. And that's why I was kind of happy to see him in the RGV lineup. But looking back at all these things that we just talked about, the lack of depth in the forwards with the Dynamo, and then we have Gold Cup and Copa America coming in. It really does put you to think. And then so Blues fan says he can't be called up if he hasn't played though, Ray. It makes no sense for Venezuela to play someone who's been rusted out.
Exactly.
Okay, let's just stay with that. I mean, that he may not be called up, but it's just one of those things where if it happens, it happens.
I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but it's those things about the fact that he hasn't played that kind of makes it not, or it doesn't make it a common sense thing for him to be called up. But the bigger question is, what kind of priority does Matt Jordan gonna have for these two teams as far as getting somebody in the during the summer transfer window, and what kind of players will he be bringing in? Is he going to go the cheap route, like you say, with just bringing up Chuy Enriquez, who we don't know if he's ready, to be going up against MLS players, because we have not seen him against other MLS players, or if he's going to get somebody for 100 exclusively for the Dynamo, in order to bolster up or that attack, reinforce that attack if Elise and Kyoto are gone for World Cup. But I think the story goes that they're gonna have to find somebody exclusively for the Dynamo, and they might get somebody for RGV, because other than that, I don't see in the Dynamo, I don't see any other position where they're lacking depth other than the forwards.
Just to clarify a comment to Mr. Blues fan 1997. Um, on October 2nd, 2018, Pena was called up to the Venezuelan national team against United Arab Emirates and the Basque Country, but did not feature in either game. So, point taken into consideration, he has been called up for the national team on a FIFA date. So,
The UAEs, the United Arab Emirates. I mean, yes, but
regardless, it's a FIFA validated country representing the Asian Football Confederation, but still, they're they are they're part of FIFA, and that's what Venezuela elected to play during that FIFA date. So to say that he cannot be called up by Venezuela,
We're not. I mean, we're not saying he can't be called up. We just no. What we're saying is that he hasn't gotten
he
minutes.
will not.
He hasn't gotten minutes, so they don't. So they don't see her.
that's fair. I mean, that's fair. I mean, Venezuela is used to is used to calling up a lot of their domestic players from their domestic leagues, and I fully understand that. But I mean, that's what they tend to do a lot of the times. Is that they'll like I said, Venezuela is not a potent soccer powerhouse, and they'll like literally roll the dice on some of the guys that did very well in their U20s and U17 uh, countries games that they've done so well recently, placing third and runner up recently in the South American Championships.
And you're talking about that being youth, right?
Yes, the FIFA U20 World Cup, where Ronaldo Pena was an actual member of the team, where they finished as a runner-up.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
those U20 World Cups. Let me say one thing about those. They're interesting to say so the least, because a lot of them can be, well, not really counterfeit, but they
I mean, that's where
can
most.
be cheated on for sure.
Well, if you're an African country,
If you're an African country, an Asian country as well, and if you're Venezuela, let's be more clear about those. I mean, why are those, teams that aren't necessarily good at soccer becoming good at soccer only in those areas, and then, well, you don't see anything about them in World Cup talk? Oh, they weren't even gonna make it. They got knocked out in the third or in the second round of the qualifications and things like that. So it's a lot to say that. Yeah.
I don't know. Like we're entering into thin ice right now. This conversation is kind of going into thin ice right now, and it's already 1 minute from 9 o'clock. So I think it'd be a good time to end the show right now. But however, even though we have so we're waiting and waiting and waiting for any one of the teams to release their lineups for this game.
I'm on the match page right now. There's still nothing.
I was just about to say that. Like I'm refreshing the match page, and it's still coming up as no data found. So I'm assuming that we're not gonna see anything until maybe like almost the last minute as far as the lineup for either team. But
Let me just remind you that the locker rooms for both teams are like way in the middle of out there in Carson, California, and then there's this big old press box with like capacity for like 6,000 people, metal bleachers. Hopefully, with some half of them being Toros fans. Kidding. But maybe at least 300 of them.
So, Identity in Sport, right over quickly, says, remember on May 7th, Brazos Valley Cavalry FC of USL2 take on Laredo Heat SC of MPSL at Texas A&M International University in Laredo, Texas. I'm assuming this is for the Open Cup. And
Yeah.
then Blues fan says, I mean, Pena had one call up and he was sent back after being on the bench, not even played a minute in his one friendly. He was on the fringes, and even so, he played a sub role for the team at the time. Actually managed minutes too. Okay, I'm confused now. But just going with your gut, guys. Tell us again what your predictions are for this match. I'm going to start with Ray.
I am sticking by my prediction on BGN written. A gritty 1-0 win.
Jacob?
I'm going to go with a draw and say 2-2. We do not break the curse.
In other words, you see a tragedy happening at the last minute, huh?
Tragedy happening for one team, and that would be
LA Galaxy 2 starting lineup. You got Romero, Schultz, Gallagher, Dupuy, Traore, Walker, Shalau, Iloski, Hernandez, Korenyuk, Lopez. On the bench, Vom Sting, Hilliard Arce, Fittis, Vera, Williams, and Zubak.
Wow, Zubak on the bench. That is a surprise, but no Alvarez either. That's a little bit of a shock there.
Yeah, which leads me to believe he was probably called up for the first team, but didn't actually make it to the bench, which is really interesting to see that. No notification.
All right, can I go for the Toros lineup? I have it here.
Sure, go ahead.
Tyler Derrick in goal. We've got the Zach Jackson as one of the backliners. Coronado, another one. Connor Donovan with the captain's badge, taking it away from Kyle Adams, who's also in the back line.
We kind of expected that, or at least I did.
Okay, so now we have a midfield of 5. We've got David Cabrera, Hector Rodriguez, Kevin Rodriguez, Romelio Hernandez. I guess this might be a makeshift 2 forwards here, but that's what.
Now you have to remember that Wilmer Cabrera.
The match sheet.
You have to remember that Wilmer Cabrera Jr. plays a little bit behind the striker, so more like a center attacking midfield.
Yeah, center attacking midfielder, and then you got Chuy Enriquez, and then leading the front line is Carlos Small. On the bench, you've got Nico Corti, Castellanos, Mena, Victor Garza, Chelene Martinez on the bench, which we've both got right. Malik Foster is also on the bench, and Michael Zalazar on the bench as well, and manager Gerson Echeverry.
Now knowing the lineups, do you guys want to change your predictions?
With this lineup that I see here, I'm sticking to my guns.
2-2 draw for me as well. Still the same thing. I mean, I'd go with the bold prediction and say that this will be a scoring fest for sure. Both teams going above 2 goals, and it ending up being a 4-3 heartbreaker for LA Galaxy 2. That would be my bold prediction, with refs making the game get a bit heated.
And now this is one of the interesting facts about this fact sheet, about the team sheets that I'm seeing here. LA is playing with the 4-1-4-1 formation, while the Toros are presenting a 4-3-2-1 type of formation. Now you brought up something real interesting there. You bring up something really interesting there, Jacob, as far as officiating is concerned. I wouldn't get too happy about referee selections. Alejandro Mariscal, who's, for me, in my opinion, one of the better refs. And now you've got Eduardo Jeff being one of the assistant refs, and Eric Wood being the other one. Fourth official Dennis Vargas, who's from the LA area. But Alejandro Mariscal, he's one of those cusp MLS guys for sure. So I guess you could kind of say we've got some luxury officiating for tonight's match.
My prediction is 2-1 for the Toros. And my bold prediction is going to be looking at this lineup that we have most of our main guys still in the back and in the front, our top guys. 4-1 is my bold prediction, with Carlos Small getting a hat trick.
Oh boy, you've been doing too many FIFA videos, haven't you, Edson?
I didn't.
Bold
Yeah.
neck, a bold prediction time would probably be a 2-0 win, and let's just say it's only a hospital job that we do on Galaxy 2. We give them a little bit of a hospital job, like where we easily could have like 5-6 goals on them, but we're only gonna let them off the hook with 2. Jacob, your bold prediction.
Yeah, bold prediction, just like I said. 4-3, crazy goal scoring game. Only one team gets above 3 goals, and that would be the RGVFC Toros, with, yes, the reffing getting a bit out of hand, with players getting a bit furious at one another.
And by the way, I'm gonna ask this right now. Any one of you two guys want to share your ESPN Plus with me? No comment. Okay, thank you and good night.
Well, guys, really thank you all so much for tuning in tonight on the show for this RGVFC versus Los Dos pregame show. We hope you all enjoyed it. We want to thank, obviously, our sponsors. We want to thank Roughneck Scarves, who are the official scarf supplier for MLS, USL, and US Soccer. We should get custom scarves for your group or team at roughneckscarves.com. Also, big thank you to our new sponsor for the Beautiful Game Network, Golden Goal Press, the best choice for you to get custom shirts, hats, mugs, and other items for you, just for yourself or maybe your organization as well. Check out all of their amazing products at a fraction of the price of other places at goldengoalpress.com. I really want to thank also the Beautiful Game Network for everything that they do for us, for all of their help. Thank you so much, Jacob, for joining the show like every week. Thank you, Ray, for coming on tonight to talk about the Toros, to help.
And by the way, one last thing. I might go check out that Brazos Valley, Laredo Heat. There might be some work interest there for me because obviously both of them are Dynamo affiliated sides in some regards. So I might go out there for that.
So if you guys are any Brazos Valley or Laredo Heat fans that are listening, if you guys want to say hi to Ray, you can probably check him out there at the game. So thank you, Ray, for taking your time to come on to not only talk, like I said, about the Toros, but also to kind of help us answer some of these questions about the relationship between NCAA and the professional teams. I know it's probably helped out a lot of our viewers kind of understand where the decision-making process was for not only for Brandon Morales, but also Wilmer Cabrera Jr. So really appreciate you taking your time to answer that.
No problem, and it's always a pleasure. And hi, Sean Ringrose. That's all I'm going to say for tonight.
Why is that?
Oh, no, just a special shout to a good friend. He's a friend of Dynamo and Toros.
Of course. So, guys, if you guys have not liked this video already, I know there's 5 people watching right now. If you guys haven't liked this video, be sure to give it a like. And subscribe to the channel. Share the channel with any of your friends. And be sure to also check out our podcast, our audio podcast, whether it's on SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and BGN.FM. Be sure to check us out there. Be sure to listen to it. Be sure to share it. Be sure to follow us in these podcasting platforms. It really helps us out a lot when it comes to potential sponsors, as well as the views here on YouTube. So that's always going to be available. The video archive will be available. But thank you all for your support. Hopefully we can get the win tonight. We can talk about good things, not only about tonight's game, but against Portland Timbers 2 next Tuesday. Next Wednesday we should be on at 7 p.m. to talk about these two matches. Hopefully, like I said, it'll be positive, as well as looking forward to the match against Phoenix Rising. Jacob, any last words before we go?
Just looking forward to tonight's game, and of course Saturday when Columbus Crew takes on Houston Dynamo, as well as the Portland Timbers 2 game. It's going to be a crazy week for sure, or rest of the week I should say, for these games. And hopefully, of course, bad things happen to Manchester City, bad things happen to FC Frisco in, of course, soccer terms, and Houston Dynamo and RGVFC and Liverpool can all get wins. That will be the greatest
So
thing.
you are a Liverpool fan?
Oh, yeah.
Because Sean asked yesterday in Generation Orange, and he didn't believe me when I said you were a Liverpool fan.
He's a
Been a
bandwagoner.
Liverpool
Hey.
Well, hold up. Been a Liverpool fan
Those
for
are
about
those
2
are
years,
those
so.
are fighting words, Ray.
Stoke City fan in the background.
Who do you go for? Stoke City, Ray?
Me, no, Liverpool.
So Sean was right in a sense as well, because he said that you were the Liverpool fan, Ray.
Yep. Yes.
So both of us are right.
Yes.
Hey, who'd have thunk that? But yeah, thank you so much. Ray, any last words?
No, just thank you for having me on tonight.
Aren't you missing something? Aren't you going to plug in?
Who,
yes.
me? Yeah, La Tragedia.
No.
Guillermo.
No. You have no. Come on, plug in your YouTube channel, your article.
Oh yes, the Beautiful Game Network written channel. I have the written responsibilities of covering the Toros, and of course my YouTube page on South Texas Border Sports. Just check out the Eric Winaldo interview. Just simply colorful.
So I actually played before before we started the show. I actually played like a couple of snippets of that Eric Winaldo interview. So if you guys missed it, you can see the full interview on South Texas Border Sports, which is Ray's YouTube account. Simo the Best 81, thank you for subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate y'all's support, and thank you for your subscription. So be sure to check out South Texas Border Sports. Check out that Eric Winaldo interview. Also check out all of the rest of the interviews with Gerson Echeverry, Chelin Martinez, as well as Malik Foster, etc. Check out all those interviews on South Texas Border Sports. Thank you so much. And by the way, we should be having a FIFA career mode series with the Toros coming in soon. So be sure to follow us on our Twitter at downintheRGV.com, as well as on Instagram, also downintheRGV.com, and Facebook.com/downintheRGV. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming on tonight. Hashtag We Are Toros. Hashtag Píntate Naranja. We'll see each other next week. Take care.